Welcome everybody to Winslow Township Board of Education regular board meeting, Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Public notice of this meeting was given to all board members and associates in a notice dated January 9th, 2025. Adequate and electronic notice of this public meeting has been provided, specifying the time, place, and manner in which this meeting is being conducted. It was advertised in the Courier Post, posted in all schools, the administration office, the municipal building, the library, Bud Dubel Center, Edgewood Acres, Elmtown, and the Winslow Township Post offices. Mission statement. Mission of the Winslow Township School District, a large, diverse, and growing community, is to educate all students to become independent, lifelong learners, critical thinkers, and caring, confident members of their community. The district, in partnership with the community and in the climate of cooperation and mutual respect, will provide an academic environment which values excellence and diversity and encourages students to strive for personal excellence and assists them in acquiring knowledge, skills, attitudes necessary to contribute positively to a rapidly changing world. Roll call, please.
Clark,
Here.
Redden,
Ms. Dredden will be absent. Ms. Claude will be absent as well.
Miss Martin. Present.
Present.
Ms. Peterson will be absent as well.
Pitts.
Present.
Thomas.
Present.
Present. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. (2024-2025) district goals. Student achievement. Continue to implement best practices for delivering instruction to students. This shall include conducting weekly administrative walkthroughs to monitor teaching and learning, consistently review student assessment data to guide and redirect teaching, continue to provide supplemental activities, i.e. tutoring, enrichment periods to address student deficiencies, benchmark assessment for 9th grade math, language, arts. 2, create a safe and positive learning environment for students and staff. Strictly enforce the district student code of conduct. Focus on upper elementary school students to modify student behavior in the early grades. Reinforce positive behavior in a specific and genuine way. Approach discipline with care, respect, and the desire to see good in all students. 3, increase parent, caregiver, community engagement and education. Provide opportunities for two-way communication with stakeholders. Continue with Communications Consortium. Focus on refining our communication methods with messages to better market our schools. And continue with our public relations within the community. Dr. Carcamo, are there any awards and presentations?
Yes, Mr. President. This evening we have two presentations. The first one will be the middle school students, and Mr. Shropshire, building principal, will introduce his staff and students. After that, we will have a presentation by Boeing, the auditors.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's perfect for anyone who wants to learn about coding or electronics, and it's a lot of fun to experiment with.
Good evening. My name is Zoe Doran. Now that we've learned about the Arduino, I'm going to talk about something just as important for building projects, breadboarding. This is a breadboard. It's a tool that helps you build electronic circuits without needing to solder anything together. It's like a temporary board where you can test and tweak your projects before you make everything permanent. On the breadboard, there are rows of holes where you can plug in wires and components like resistors, LEDs, and sensors. The holes are connected in specific ways that allow electricity to flow through them, letting you create circuits. The cool part is you can easily move things around and try different configurations until you get your circuit working just right. For example, if you wanted to connect an LED to the Arduino, you put one leg of the LED into one of the row of the holes and connect the other leg to a different row where you could run the wire to the Arduino. You can do this for all sorts of components, motors, sensors, and more. Basically, a breadboard makes prototyping easy because it lets you experiment with electronics without needing to solder, and you can reuse it for different projects.
Good evening. My name is Janelle Jimenez Ledma. Now that we've talked about breadboarding, I'm going to introduce you to soldering. This is the process you can use when you want to make permanent connections in your electronic projects. This is a soldering thing. Essentially, soldering involves melting a special metal called solder to join two pieces of metal together, usually wires or electronic components. It creates a strong permanent connection, which is really important if you want your project to last or work correctly. To solder, you can heat up this tool called a soldering iron and use it to melt the solder onto the joint where two parts meet. Once the solder cools down, it hardens, make the connection permanent and solid. For this project, we need to make the motor wires longer, so we soldered longer wires onto the original wires. Soldering can take a little practice, but it's really valuable skill in electronics. It's what helps turn your temporary prototype into something you can use long term. Plus, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty fun.
Good evening. My name is Wancha Jablum. Now that we've covered some basics, I want to talk about a fascinating project where you control the speed of a vibrating motor using a potentiometer and turn the motor on with a button press. Under our snow, we hid a tiny motor that shakes or vibrates when it's powered. We can control how fast it vibrates by adjusting the potentiometer, which is just a fancy name for a variable resistor. You can't really see it, but this is a potentiometer. The potentiometer looks like a knob, and you turn it to change its resistance. When you change the resistance, you're basically controlling how much power is sent to the motor, which lets you adjust its speed. Next, we added a button to the mix. When you press the button, it tells the Arduino to turn the motor on, and it will start vibrating based on the speed you set with the potentiometer. When you release the button, the motor turns off. As the motor vibrates, the snow bounces around the snow globe, giving the illusion that the snow globe is shaken up. Now we'll test the project.
So they're going to run them for you. It is very hard, I'm sure, for you to see, but we are going to leave these up here. So at the end of the meeting, if you'd like to come up and look, and even if you want to come up and press a button, there's not anything you can really hurt with these. So you can come up and test them if you'd like. Anthony, would you like to share yours? So you can get a closer look at all of the breadboarding that they did, all of the wires, the resistors, the potentiometer that they mentioned, and the Arduino. We did have a GIF up here, though, of it moving, so you can see that the little balls inside to act as snow, they vibrate with the vibrating motor and pop up to make it look like you shook up the snow globe. So thank you very much for letting my students present tonight and for letting us share the work that we've been doing this year.
Great job. Great job. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
presenting.
Thank you, guys. Great. Thank you. Next, we'll have a representative from Boeing Company.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for having me here at the board meeting tonight. I'm here to give a brief presentation of the financial statement audit of the Winslow Township School District for the year ended June 30th, 2024. The audit started in the fall after the business office closed out the previous school year and prepared their financial statements and schedules for the audit. The records being audited included the district's general fund, capital projects fund, federal and state, student activities fund, food service fund, and the before and after school program. The job was staffed by the partner, a senior manager, a manager, and 2 associates. The audit report contains 3 required auditor's report that we use to render our opinions on the financial statements and the notes to the audit report. The audit was wrapped up by the first week of January. The reporting package, including all of the required submissions, was submitted to the NJDOE through an electronic repository prior to the filing deadline of January 15, 2025. The audit reports are also available to the public through the NJDOE's website. Financially, the BOE has an excess in operation of $3.6 million. The district utilized prior year fund balance amount of $5.9 million in support of the 2023-2024 budget. The district also approved a withdrawal of $14 million from the capital reserve fund balance for various capital projects during the school year. In June 2024, the board approved a transfer into the capital reserve of $15 million. Unexpended capital project fund balance were also transferred back to the capital reserve for completed project in the amount of $1.9 million. All of this resulted in net increase of a capital reserve of $2.5 million for future capital projects. This lessened the need to bond. There were no budget line items that were overexpended. The total instruction expenditure district-wide were about $2.1 million higher than fiscal 23 at $55 million. This includes tuition costs for out-of-district special education students. Plant operation and maintenance is $400,000 higher than fiscal 23 at $9 million. Student transportation was about $1.2 million higher than fiscal 23 at $11.4 million. Despite rising costs and tough economic situation, business office and the board always try to operate efficiently within the legal limit set by the state of New Jersey. Federal and state grants received and expended amounted to approximately $15.5 million. This is about $6.5 million higher than last year because the district was required to close out ESSER ARP funding allotment throughout the COVID grant. On page 79 of the audit report provides a snapshot of the district's general fund balance as of June 30th. Total fund balance at June 30th was $55 million. Majority of these funds are restricted or designated to be used in either 2024-2025 budget or 2025-2026 budget. In total, capital reserve was about $30 million. Excess surplus was about $9 million. $2.4 million were encumbered to be spent in the next school year. Unassigned fund balance is only $3.1 million, which is 2% of general fund expenditure, and that's the maximum allowed by the state statute. We have issued 3 reports that you should have received. The first one is the exit conference report. The report satisfies certain required communication we are required to do with those charged with governance. It includes a detailed list of any findings and the description that there were no unrecorded audit adjustments. The summary of findings break out all findings into 2 categories. The first one is for the items that are discussion only. The second type are items that are significant enough to warrant a finding in the audit report. For this fiscal 24 audit, there were several discussion items that were discussed at an exit conference earlier with the school's administration. There were 1 audit finding noted in the audit report, and it's described on page 165. The finding indicates that the school district's food service fund net cash resources exceeded its 3 months average expenditure by $450,000. This is the New Jersey School Department of Agriculture requirement, and there's a calculation in the auditor's management report. Are there any questions about the exit conference report?
Yes, I do have a question, if I may.
Yes.
On the finding, I'm under the impression that that was the same finding we had last year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is there anything that we can do to not, or any suggestions or any tasks we're taking to make sure we can probably not have that finding occur again?
So the Department of Agriculture has a formula on how to calculate the excess. The district's cash could not exceed 3 months average operating expenditure. So a couple ways to. One is to upgrade cafeteria facilities. We can use the cash to improve on existing equipment. So it reduces cash and also increases expenditure. However, there are purchasing and local contract law process required to follow. So we can't just spend money when we want. There are bids requirements. Also, certain things could not be purchased with cafeteria funds. So I think the Department of Agriculture website has a list of items that could be spent down using the cafeteria funds. And once we decided we wanted to spend it on that direction, public contract law has to be followed. So it depends on the timing. We might not be able to spend the cash down as fast as we could to reduce that finding.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Go out for long. I don't know if you can hear. So not all of it. Charge it. Out of it. Already bought cafeteria. Some for the high school. We're spending the 400. In the meantime, Sodexo earning money, and if we're right there, we have to spend us anything. And there's a reason as to what you can those funds for. Kind of in a catch-20. We are looking for upgrades at the high school and the middle serving line. Prices are they're nerve-wracking. It prices over $600,000. So, but I already bought chairs. Kind of a balancing. We'll make start to June 30th. Not we can contracts pay, but it
Do you think we are going to meet our goals for that that item next year?
It would be at the trying. Don't want to just, positive,
Thank you.
then I'm a hide.
Well, the
It's $107 million.
107 million.
Didn't correct. Right. Exactly.
To make sure finding on sort of make duck on job so butter actually out with I don't know how refrigerate.
Once you have castle use life, so I'm not gonna. If I bought a stove oven that's got a 50 lifespan, if I bought it 2 years ago, I'm not going to just that. I got to get rid of this audit findings. And another one. Still have to be.
No, I understand Thomas is staying with.
Well,
And that's sort of reverse, right?
Well,
I mean,
I also want to add on that this is started during the COVID time when the federal government and state government increased the reimbursement rates for each meal served. So the cash started to build up during COVID, and it's a common finding within the county and within the state. Not that it makes it normal. The state of New Jersey and the feds have this formula, and they have not revisited it since before COVID. So it's possible that there are some legislation being worked on to hopefully not make this an automatic audit finding in the future. But as of now, we're going with the compliance requirement that's set out for us. So we have to know an automatic finding. Again, the school district should not be fiscally irresponsible to just spend cash because they have access.
Well, and let me be clear. The administration has been Ms. Bull do a magnificent job with the budget. In no way am I trying to say that we should do something that's not fiduciary applicable. But what I do know about the government, because when you got 2 findings in a row and it's excess cash, when they say you got excess stuff, they start to trim somewhere else. So I'm just, concerned about that thing. I'm not saying do nothing implicit or anything out of the line of what you're supposed to be doing. Just to say, if we had 2 findings 2 years in a row, we should be a little more proactive to make sure this doesn't happen again, because you don't want the government to say we have an excess of any type of budgeting or any type of financing.
I understand. This is also a proprietary fund that's separate from the general fund, so it's not related to, and it should not impact state aid or federal aids that's earmarked for student instruction and education.
Okay, but just a brief comment. I just want to make sure that this is not a situation where you use it or lose it.
It's not.
Thank you.
And just one more clarification. 1 audit finding last year and 1 audit finding. That's it. Not that wasn't audit findings. At one in 20, and we had 1. They are the same. Or fortunate, I'm going to say. Public contracts law put out a bid, have to select low bidder. So in a situation where I know we have to write us up, I still high bid, or for the have to take low bid. At that time, I can't put another bid out. It would be drowning. Want to be client, don't want to spend. Thank you.
On page 11 of the audit report, it's a financial statement opinion, and we give an unmodified or clean opinion. On page 151, it's a report on internal control and compliance over financial reporting, and there was that one finding noted. On page 153 of the audit report is a report on internal control and compliance over major grant compliance, and also we give an unmodified or clean opinion. Again, the district is doing a great job with taxpayer money, state fundings. The business office prepare all the financial schedules required for the audit, and we received complete cooperation from all the departments when we were out here doing the audit work. So thank you and the board for all the assistance provided during the audit. If there were no more questions, that will be all of the presentation. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, do we have any correspondence?
On this evening, Mr. President,
Can I have a motion to approve the following meeting minutes from our reorganization meeting January 8th, 2025, open session, and also our regular meeting minutes from January 15th, 2025. Oh, I'm moving ahead of myself. Yeah, that's why.
So, Mr. President, are we grouping it?
No, we'll keep it separate.
Okay. So, Mr. President, at this time, I move that we approve, excuse me, the minutes from our board meeting, Board of Education meeting, our reorganization meeting, which took place January 8th, 2025, open session.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, please. For any questions?
so who did?
Mr. McManus. Roll call, please.
Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McMahon?
Yes.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes of our regular meeting, January 15th, 2025, open session, and our regular meeting, January 15th, 2025, closed session?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the minutes from our Board of Education meeting, our regular meeting, which took place January 15th, 2025, open session, and our regular meeting, January 15th, 2025, closed session.
I'd like to second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McMahon?
Yes.
Pitts?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Moving on to our board committee reports. Mr. Thomas, is there a report from our athletic committee?
Yes, I do there, Mr. President. Our wonderful Winslow Athletic Department is doing a fine job. Our committee constituents are John Shaw, Wanda Glaude, and myself. The mission of the athletic committee will be preparing athletes for the next level. This Friday at 7 o'clock, our state champion football team will be having an honorary banquet at the Bob Douglas Center at 7 p.m. All the board members are invited. And I just want to make a note for our football team. The team GPA is 2.9. Winslow boys varsity record is 10-5. The next game is tomorrow against Morristown. Winslow girls is 1-3, and their next game is tomorrow against Morristown. And our Winslow Township High School girls indoor track team wins the 7th straight NJSIAA Indoor Group 3 Relay Championship. That's right. Congratulations to those Winslow Township High School for track team for winning their 7th straight NJSIAA Group 3 Indoor State Relay Championship. This team scored a total of 69.50 points, the highest score in state relay history. Awesome. Congratulations again to Coach Brown and her entire Winslow Township High School's track team. We are Winslow proud. Also, our cheerleaders are back to competition where they're doing their cheerleading competition throughout the state to represent Winslow in a great way. And I don't know if you've ever been to a basketball game lately, but we got a Winslow mascot that is phenomenal. He's part of our drama club, and he's entertaining the crowd, and he's something to see. This whole Winslow winning atmosphere in the Delaware Valley is something to behold, and I just want to say thank you to the students and staff for allowing this opportunity. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Ms. Martin, anything out of the Citizens Advisory Committee?
No minutes at this time, but we do have a meeting scheduled for February 6th at 7 p.m. in the Administration Building.
Okay. Ms. Martin, anything from the Education Committee?
Education Committee has no report at this time, but we have a tentative date of 2/11/25 p.m. via WebEx.
Okay. Mr. McManus, Marketing Committee?
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Dredden's not here tonight, so I will do the Operations Committee meeting for her tonight. The Operations Committee met on January 27th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. via WebEx. The discussion items that we talked about were 1, capital projects, the circulation pumps at schools 1, 2, 3, 4, and the middle school. Punch list items needed to be completed. Project to be closed out by December 31st, 2024 from the November meeting. The project remains open. We received a return from Ron Schwenke from Land Associates today. He believes the vendor has submitted all the closeout documents. He will confirm and get back to us and submit the documents for final payout. Oh, okay, never mind. I'll start over. Oh, no, don't. Okay. All right. So the high school upgrade. Okay. Well, number 2, the high school HVAC upgrade. Discussed with Land Associates projects moving forward. Number 3, the 2024-25 budgeted capital and other projects from EI Associates. EI held a page turn meeting regarding the HVAC projects at schools 5 and 6. A request for the proposal, RFP, will be released shortly to get the services of a construction manager for these projects. Also discussed other projects budgeted in the 24-25 budget. There is a short time frame to get these completed. 1, a roof replacement in the administration building, grease trap replacements at schools 1 through 4, a partial roof replacement for the high school J wing, and the construction of a pole barn for athletics at the high school. Number 4, the 23-24 annual comprehensive financial report, the ACFR, sorry about that. The ACFR will be presented tonight, which you all heard. There was one finding. The district had too much surplus at the food service fund as of June 30th, 2024. We will implement the corrective action plan to address this condition. 2025 budget development, number 5. The budget software is open. State aid numbers will not be released until late February. The district is not anticipating an increase or decrease in state aid. We will develop a budget anticipating a 2% increase in the tax levy only. Items under consideration: negotiations, teachers and administrators contract end as of June 30th, 2025. Balance of HVAC systems upgrades. Funding will need to be secured for schools 1, 2, 4, and the middle school. Dr. Carcamo and Ms. Boyle will held meetings with the building principals to determine if they have sufficient funding for their needs in their buildings. Funding was sufficient. School level budgets have been entered in the district's budget software. Additional needs will be considered after the release of the state aid. The meeting adjourned to 6:13 p.m. Next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. And if I can go back to the start, since I started out reading the agenda and not the minutes. In attendance were myself, Ms. Boyle, and Ms. Chico. So that way that's not left out of the report. Next would be the policy committee.
Yes, Mr. President, the policy meeting will take place February 12th, prior to our meeting in the administration building at 6 p.m., and the members of the policy committee will be reminded.
Thank you. I'd like to point out at the end of the table that we have our student rep here with us tonight, Anna Dutton. I believe she has a read.
Yes, I do. Good evening, everybody. I have 2 updates I'd like to report regarding the high school. The first is last Thursday, we hosted the 8th graders from the middle school at our elective fair and provided them with information about some of the courses offered at the school, as well as personal accounts from current students in the classes. And my last update is that earlier this month on January 8th, a few student government members, our advisor, Mrs. Fury, and I attended the New Jersey Association of Student Councils Winter Convention, and our school was awarded the second-year honor distinction due to our efforts in being important for developing and maintaining a successful student council program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the superintendent's report. Can I have a motion to approve the superintendent's report as it's recommended from page 3 all the way through page number 6?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the make motion to approve the superintendent's report, which begins in the middle of page 3 and continues through to the bottom of page 6.
Second.
I can second that motion.
Any questions? Call, please.
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McManus?
Yes.
Ms. Pitts?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
And Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
On to the business administrator, board secretary's report. Can I have a motion to approve the board business administrator, board secretary's report as it's been written? I have, before we go on to that, I'm sorry. There's one thing that needs to be changed on that. It's on page 13, item number 8.
Mr. President?
Oh, that's on the person.
That's on.
I'm on, top of page 11. I'm sorry.
We appreciate your zeal, though, sir.
I skipped ahead a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
I accidentally moved the page. All right, sorry about that. on page 11. Sorry about that, Mrs. Pitts.
That's all right, Mr. President. I move that we approve the Business Administrative Board Secretary's report as it appears on page 7 and continues through to the bottom of page 10.
Can I get a second?
I can second that.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Pitt,
Yes, but I recuse myself from page 8, item 12.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Motion has.
Moving on to the personnel report. If I can have everybody turn to page 13 and look at item number 8 on the 2025 professional development. We need to change that account number where it says 300. That needs to be 20-27 275-200-100-00. Okay. And motion to approve the personnel report as the superintendent recommends.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the personnel report with the change indicated on page 13, report that begins on page 11 and continues through to the bottom of page 13.
I get a second?
I'd like to second that.
Roll call, or any questions?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
Page 13, number 8, if I might just ask for clarification. The pilot programs, are these for math?
Math and language arts. So most of them, one for kindergarten through 8th grade will be for math. The pre-K is just an all-inclusive pre-K program. So we included math, possible language arts, as well as preschool.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Annis,
Yes.
Ms. Pitts,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Harry,
Moving on to our addendum. Give her a couple seconds to look at the addendum. Can I have a motion to approve the board secretary's report from starts on page 1 and ends on page 2?
President, I move that we approve the board secretary's report as it appears on our addendum, beginning on page 1 and ending with the bottom of page.
Can I get a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Ms. Pitts said. Could you repeat that? I honestly didn't.
On your addendum, we're on the addendum, Mr. McManus. The pink.
I got it.
Got it?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Pitts.
You're welcome.
Second that motion while I'm at it.
Any questions?
Yes, Mr. President. Number 3 on page 1. Am I to understand that we are moving back to Genesis software as opposed to what we were using previously, which I can't remember the name at the moment? So we are going back
That's
to
exactly
Genesis?
what we're seeking to do.
Okay.
So we are currently using a program that does not satisfy all of our needs.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And if you don't mind me asking, we purchased something, they said they were going to be able to do it, and they have not been able to do it. That's why we have to go back to the old
Not to
software.
our satisfaction.
Not to your satisfaction. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Ms. Pitts,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr.
Yes.
Motion has.
Move to approve the personnel report as it's recommended on the addendum on page 3.
Mr. President, I'd like to make one correction
Yes.
on the personnel report, number 2. The high school spring musical pig orchestra. I'd like to add one more account number,
Okay.
1101 100 100 401.
Can I have a motion to approve the personnel report as the superintendent recommends it with the addition of the account number for item number 2 of 11-401-100-100-401-08 on page 3?
President, I move that we approve personnel report with changes in by our board secretary as it appears, ends on page 3 and ends on page.
Can I get a second?
And second that motion?
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McManus,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Moving back to our regular agenda. Ms. Boyle, do we have any Open Public Records Act requests?
None.
Do we have any informational items?
I do, Mr. President. I have 2 items to share. Inside of your folder, I included a news release. And again, the high school TV production program is being recommended for another, been nominated for another award. And it's for the piece that they presented earlier that's called Piece by Piece. So this will be held in Asbury Park sometime toward the end of March, and the winning school will receive $500 reward. So I think this makes the 4th nomination for that piece that was created by the high school student. Additionally, we received a notice from the State Department regarding our results from the CUSAC results. So the CUSAC is it's an accountability system, and it's called the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum. And we are evaluated in 3 different areas, and that is instruction and program, physical management, governance, operation, and personnel. And we are required to maintain at least 80% in all of those areas. If we do not, we are required to develop a district improvement plan. So far, we've been successful in acquiring the 80% or more in 4 of the areas, but unfortunately, we've not earned the 80% in curriculum and instruction. There are many areas that are looked at in order to arrive at the score of 80%. We originally had a score of 79, and we've now received an interim report, and we have 74%. So that's preliminary. We will be evaluated again at the end of June, and then we will have our final score. So we are now required to continue implementing the improvement plan that we had in place. And this is largely based on test results. So we will be evaluated again after our assessment results.
If I may,
Yes.
would it be fair to say that the drop in score is solely because of the academic test score?
So the state has a system of calculating, but the test scores play a large part in it.
Okay. But was that a yes or a no?
Partially, yes.
No, I'm sorry. When you had reported that the test, our QSAC score went from 79 to 74 on an interim basis, was the sole reason because of the decline in test scores?
And not the sole reason. So the test scores have a large percentage to pay, as well as the graduation rate. Those are the two primary things.
Oh, so
It'll be the graduation rate and the test scores.
Okay, so they're more heavily weighted in those categories.
They are.
Okay, thank you.
My information.
Moving on to old business. Anybody have any old business they'd like?
If I may.
Okay.
I think this is old business because it happened before.
No, well, I think I know what you're going to, that'll be new business.
That's new business?
Yeah.
All right. I'll defer to your extensive
So
experience.
we're going to move on to new business, and Mr. Manis.
Now I can say something. I had a great experience. Went to SBA's Governance 1 training for new school board members. I cannot overstate how valuable that is. And I really can't really thank because it's like required for the position, but I would also encourage some of my other board members that may have taken that at some point in the past, maybe to revisit that. I'm really, or not, an old saying a friend of mine in business said, he says, should know this better than this, but he says, be brilliant in the basics when it comes into business. And I know that this is a basic thing, but like I said, I walked out with so much, I'm just kind of hungry for more, really. I don't know how else to say it, but thank you. And what was one other thing? This town's getting ready to grow a lot. Building permits are up. I know that there's tax abatements that are talked about. Do we have some kind of communication with the township with the number of units that are going to be built and what the projected increase in the student population would be as a result of that?
As far as since I've been on the planning board, let's take, for instance, the new D.R. Horton
right
residential development that's going to be coming into. I've sat down and had conversations with Dr. Poteet about that. So can't totally predict the future on it, but we can kind of have a guesstimate. And because they lowered the amount of houses from the initial estimate of what they were going to build to a lower amount, so now we have to try to judge it now that it's finally approved. We have to go back to that discussion and try to come back to a decent number of what we can project that once those houses are started to build.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation that has to happen again.
Yeah. No, that's a good thing because I would imagine most of the members of the community would, with that coming, and it's going to change the dynamic of some of the areas here in Winslow Township, but that's going to be something that with staffing, we'd obviously need more teachers and things of that nature, but I just wanted to send a clear message to the township that this is something that we're getting in front of and not going to be reactionary to. Thank you.
And if I could add something to that, Mr. President, I think I can cite on because we do have an economic development council meeting coming third with the township. All are in their new economic development plan this year, and all are invited. All stakeholders are invited to be a part of that plan. And I know a big thing that they will be talking about is housing. So if anybody wants to come to that, that's February 3rd, 7 o'clock at the Township Building. We'll be talking about some other things. I think we're talking about the Business of the Month plan. They'll be talking about the July 4th fireworks that will be here at this same property. So that's a great opportunity for all the stakeholders, all the board members to show up and put your input in before the ball gets rolling. So I just want to make that available to you.
That's a great, thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Good. Anybody else for new business?
I do, Mr. President. I just got one more informational item I want to share with our stakeholders because it's a great time to be in Winslow Township. I mean, the eyes of the world township right now. And I just think that we need our stakeholders and collaboration more than ever. I predict that this year will be our biggest college recruitment class in Winslow Edgewood history. So we want to make sure that they're prepared educationally to meet that challenge, and we need everyone. We need not just the district, but we need our stakeholders, we need our nonprofits, we need our CDSEs, we need our churches to be involved in this. Because what's happening now is changing. The students right out of high school, they're going to college, but now it's more like a career. Because with this new student athlete and NIL, there's income that comes with that. And you're making a substantial amount of money at 18 years old out of high school, and they need to be prepared. So, and it's something new. I mean, now it's really legal. They may have been doing it before, but before it wasn't as legal as it is now. So I'm asking everyone to keep that in mind when you're making your lesson plans, when you have kids that's doing different things, that right out of high school, going to college is now their business. So keep that in mind when we're making plans going forward. Thank you.
I have one thing before we end new business. At the end of March, I believe the date is the 27th of March, the township's going to hold a job fair at the Bud Dougal Center. So if any, Mr. Morello, I see you back there. If you want to start putting that out to your seniors, that's a great way to start getting off if they don't want to, if they're not ready to go to college. Trades will be there. I believe, like Atlantic City Electric, I think, shows up. There's a bunch of different, employers that show up. The last one I went to was immensely attended with all kinds of people from all across Winslow Township. But it's a great start for any high school senior that wants to start getting their resumes out there, for after graduation. So that's something to keep an eye on for the end of March.
Mr. President, if you could repeat the date and time.
I believe it's March 27th at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Moving on to public comments, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public comment. The Winslow Township Board of Education highly values the input of citizens in making the important decisions that affect the children of our community. We believe in the rights of citizens to observe board meetings, to ensure that all of our citizens have the opportunity to attend school board meetings and offer comment, and to ensure that the board can conduct the important business of the district. We ask that speakers follow the guidelines for making public comment. The board secretary will recognize those individuals in the audience who have signed up and wish to make public comment. I'd ask that you respect the following procedures. 1, all members of the public attending school board meetings must treat each other and the board with respect. 2, please state your full name and town of residence. 3, please limit your comments to 4 minutes. 4, submit your questions in writing to the Board of Education, along with your name and address and telephone number where you can be reached. And in the event we're unable to answer your question tonight, we will do so within a reasonable time period. And lastly, individuals offering citizen comment are not permitted to make personal attacks on any district employee, board member, or other testifier, or member of the public. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to move into public comments?
I move that we move into public comment.
Second.
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay. Can I get a voice vote for moving into public comments?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, Mr. President, we have Mike Dixon.
Good evening.
See if this is on. There you go. All right. Michael Dixon. I am a resident of Winslow Township. And I just want to share that the number of at-risk high school and middle school males is growing at an epidemic level all over this country, and specifically, of course, here at Winslow Township. There are a myriad of factors contributing to this crisis, which the school and school boards, of course, did not cause. However, you are faced with having to solve the problem. But the truth is, you know that you can't do it by yourselves. So we want to help you, help our young people to overcome the odds and succeed in life. Loving Our Cities is a nonprofit organization and serves as the community engagement arm of the Perfecting Church, a non-denominational church founded in 2011, located in Sewell, New Jersey. A Few Good Men is Loving Our Cities mentoring program launched by Coach Mike McBride and Pastor Kevin Brown to grow the South Jersey high school student athletes into men of character and integrity on and off the field. This was in response to the perceived growing character crisis and leadership void in our community. A Few Good Men annually mobilizes about 30 men who volunteer their time and serve throughout 12 high schools in South Jersey to mentor over 600 students every year. And this program has been going on since 2011. We offer weekly character sessions at these respective high schools on leadership, emotional intelligence, social media, decision-making, and stress management. In response to the growing need to catch our at-risk teens as early as possible, A Few Good Men were invited to launch a pilot teen leadership program here at Winslow Township Middle School, serving about 20 at-risk students. And that program started on January the 9th of this year. Mr. Sean Chester will continue for us.
Good evening, board. Good evening, population, fellow members of Winslow District. As brother or Coach Mike Dixon was saying, with the Few Good Men initiative, aside from the football field, now we're working with 6th and 7th graders in Winslow Township Middle School, and we've identified, or the school has helped us identify some of these at-risk students. With the program, it's a 4-week program, 8-week program funded by the state. We go in with specific class schedule, and we develop and mentor them. And there's also, we do field trips with them, 3 of which will happen this semester. Just to go more into it, some of the lessons that we teach are on emotional intelligence, drug abuse, overcoming fatherlessness, goal setting, stress management, and responsible use of social media, as well as violence. As far as our schedule goes, we go in once a week. It's on a Thursday from 2 to 4. And the way the schedule plans out is we start off with rules of engagement. We do an icebreaker, and then we go into our lesson. And then we end with a Q&A, complete with free pizza and beverages supplied by A Few Good Men. So it's a really great initiative. You guys should applaud yourself that we're doing this, but we're catching these at-risk children early and helping them become a better part of the Winslow greater community. So that was our presentation. We'd open up for any questions about the initiative if the board has any.
Could you repeat what school you're at again?
We're in the middle school. Winslow Middle School, we're handling 6th and 7th grade minority boys. 7th and 8th, I'm sorry.
Could you touch on I know you have a reading program in the summer that you do. Could you just touch on that just a little bit?
Certainly, there's a reading program that was offered to anyone in the area that went for 4 weeks. The program was intentionally designed to help those students in the 2nd and 3rd grade who were matriculating to the third and fourth grade who had reading deficiencies. It's called Freedom School. So we offered that in the month of August. The students were able to come to the church, and they spent the day, I believe it was from 9 to about 3 o'clock every day, doing programs to enhance their reading levels. The students were identified by the program to find out what levels the students were reading at, and then they wouldn't be accepted unless they had some deficiencies, so that we could increase their reading levels throughout the program. We also have another program which is called Perfecting Chords, which is a music after-school program that serves here now. I think it's school number 2, and we had that program operating from, I think, 2014 up until the pandemic time. But after the pandemic, we had to put a halt to that. But we were able to start that also on January the 9th of this year.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
President, that concludes those that have any in the waiting room. Public comment.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn public comments?
I move that we adjourn public comments.
I could second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
President, if I may, Thomas, my attention as well as my partner who covered the last meeting. Which would be a good opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Last meeting. Comments.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'd like to applaud BC Church for coming and doing all the things that they do in our community. They're a pillar in our company, in our town, and these are the things that we need to do to make sure that our children follow the will and get everything that they need. And I just want to applaud them one more time for coming and giving their speech and telling us what they do.
Mr. Clark, did I hear you? Mr. McManus, do you have anything you wanted to?
I just, if I could, just second what Mr. Thomas said. I've spent, I'm going to say 30 plus years serving children as a youth pastor and as a Little League coach. And to see people take time out of, we're all busy, but for people to take time out of their schedules and selflessly give to children, especially children that we recognize may be needing more than the average child, for lack of a better term. I love it. I salute you.
Martin?
I'd just like to say thank you to Mr. Chester and Mr. Dixon for volunteering their time to do this for our children.
Amen.
I would just like to comment on what Mr. Hannes was able to experience as a new board member, and to hear how well it was received and how much he appreciates what he learned at that. And that's very, very important, especially to us as board members. So bravo, Mr. Hannes. Great.
Thank you, Ms. Pitts.
I want to thank the Perfecting Church for this program that they're bringing into the school district, and also for the long-standing Perfecting Chords program that they had at school number 2. Programs like this can only enrich and help our students grow and become better people in society. And that's the only thing that we want for every single one of them, to go out there and make every single graduate that comes through these halls of Winslow schools the best that when they come back to our graduation and speak at our commencement ceremonies like they do every year. It just shows what Winslow is. And like when Mr. Thomas says, Winslow winning, it just keeps adding and adding and adding. So organizations like Perfecting Church, we can't thank you enough. And moving on from that, Mr. Thomas, what you said about our track team and our other sports teams that we have, we can't be more proud of them. Our going into our robotics program at our middle school, our STEM programs are second to none. We can't beat them. I mean, I watched that film from at New Jersey School Boards, and that was just absolutely amazing. I sat there next to you, Dr. Carcamel, and I knew that they were going to be picked up for that immediately. And to watch all those students beam with pride when their show or their film was going on, can't make this stuff up just to watch the smiles and the admiration of other school districts from around the state. We have to be proud of everything that we're doing, and the things that we're not doing right, we'll pick them up. We will make ourselves Winslow winning all over the place, and it's organizations like Perfecting Church and other nonprofits around Winslow Township that'll help us do it. And each and every board member up here will make sure we do it, because that's what we're elected to do. So thank you very much, and I appreciate every single one of you coming out here tonight. Unless you have something to add.
Regrettably, in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, we'll be entering into an executive session on January 29th, 2025 at approximately 8:50 p.m. Of the items have 9 exceptions that permit us to discuss in executive session as a matter of law, utilizing item 1, which is an update from Dr. Carcamo on a student matter. Need for confidentiality is surrounded by FERPA, which is Federal Privacy Act for students in school. So we'll be discussing one student matter, and we will have one matter presented with the assistance of Mr. Davis on item 8, which are matters of employment and conditions of employment. We have a request for an extension of unpaid leave for consideration. And I don't believe it's long, so I'm going to estimate somewhere between 25 to 30 minutes.
Yep.
Everyone, we're ready.
Can I get a motion to move to executive session?
I move that we move into executive session.
Can I get a second?
I would second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McMahon,
Yes.
Ms. Pitts,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
and Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Motion has